me awkward all the time, and I feel like life does that.
Yes, I agree with that.
Let me.
Like, it's a funny way of making you look like an idiot.
Oh God, and it's not funny. Life thinks it's funny, but it's totally not.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Is that a little? Is that a little much on the headphones? Are you fine with that?
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I'm okay being back, right? I feel like.
Yeah, you're fine. I would try to stay kind of close to it
Let me just.
because the chair is gonna naturally
Yeah.
make you want to rock. But these mics pick up a lot of shit, so
Yeah, I also don't want them to hear my weird, awkward breathing, and I don't want to hit my face on the mic, so there's that.
well that's the little screen kind of gives you a good idea of where you want to be. All right, let me change the title of this video. My stuff, episode number 65.
What?
Yeah,
Man, you're knocking it out, dude.
I'm trying.
I think it's great what you're doing.
Oh, well, I think it's great that you think it's great. You're one of the first people that thought it was great.
Well, I think that one of the first episodes I really listened to was your Why I Don't Drink. And I was
Oh, yeah.
sold after that. I'm a sucker for any sort of.
Honesty.
Yep.
Because that's definitely honesty.
Yeah, like brutally so, but I appreciate it.
Why did this not save? I clicked save. I get so aggravated when computers don't do what I ask them to do. Oh, and see, it's still there. Save. Okay, nailed it.
I'm not a big technology buff, so I can't really help you much with any technical troubleshooting difficulties.
I'm really not that good at technology either, but
I should be.
I'm really good at feeling my way around things that I don't know anything about. I guess. I don't know why or how that is because I don't feel very mentally accommodated. But I can figure out something if it screws up.
Well, I think that's a good skill set to have.
We came from the era in which things had to be fixed before they were thrown away. All of the YouTube watchers are going to get a lot of extra content today out of this. Things that you will not be able to hear audio-wise. All right, I'm going to share this on Facebook, and then we'll go hot on the audio.
Okie dokie.
Live right meow. Dun. All right, live right meow.
I have all of the drinks in front of me. Drink more.
Hey-o. Live post. Okay, now that has been shared, so I can get out of that. I can get out of that. Don't need that. Don't need that. And you get to see everything that I see on my screen over there, and anything you need to look up, you have Google here.
Perfect.
So let's go hot on the audio.
Man, now that's an MC voice for you.
There we go. You're listening to WKEL.
I wish we had a better, like the Gator.
Yeah, you're listening to the Gator. WKEL. Merle's Inlet. Coming at you live from the Screwball Whiskey Studios.
Or vodka, more accurately.
Yes.
For this evening.
What is this, flavored Red Bull and vodka? Mm-hmm. Nice.
Terrible life decisions.
So, with the terrible life decisions, JK, great life decisions. I'm very happy with your life decisions, by the way. Miss Alisha Brown, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi,
Alisha Brown Rice.
legally it's still Alisha Rice. I'm kind of,
Let's get this a little closer to you.
yeah, okay. My husband's pretty PO'd with me. I'm slacking a little bit. We're coming up on our 2nd year anniversary of being married, and I still haven't found time to change my name, but, you know. It's just not kind of a priority right now. Sorry, babe.
Sorry, indeed. So, we are going to talk about matters of the mind. Mm-hmm. And you have been studying matters of the mind for quite some time now.
Yeah, I just finished up my bachelor's, looking at some master's, PhD programs, but first there's the GRE and all the other academic hoops you have to jump through, but we'll see how that goes.
We will indeed. So, what made you want to go down that road?
Psychology, you mean?
Yeah. What made you interested in the brain?
Well, initially it started off as nursing school, and then I kind of placed out of all of that at Tech, or Georgetown Technical College.
Yep.
Was accepted to MUSC and Clemson. Took the offer from Clemson. And the day of registration, I walked up and was like, you know what? I think I'm going to change my major to pre-med, because why not? And then I got into some upper-level chemistry and realized that my math skills were really subpar, and if I continued on that route, I was going to kill someone. It's not funny. Like, literally, I would have killed someone.
Yeah, math's awful. I'm the worst.
God, I wish I were better at it. But so really, I think it stemmed from some self-reflection and realizing that the nursing and the pre-med, all of that, was coming from a place of just genuinely wanting to help people. And so psychology allows me to do that, kind of without the math.
Yeah, well.
So, really, that's where that stemmed from.
Well, that's awesome, because I don't know if I just couldn't do school. I was so bad at school, and I would probably be better at it now, just because I understand the importance of it, and I could not make myself understand the importance of it when I was in it.
Yeah, well, it's hard, I think, too, when you're coming from the high school diploma sort of formative years of education, because you don't really get to choose anything. It's them telling you, well, this is the tentative list of things that you need to know, right?
Yeah.
So if you have any personal interests, you're not really free to explore those, which I think is kind of like a lacking thing in our current education
Absolutely.
system. But so it does get a little easier when you go to higher education. And you have, the first year or two bullshit courses that you have to take. But once you get past that, it's a little easier. You get to take your bread and butter courses where you're interested in something. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that. We're using headphones now, by the way, for those of you not watching the...
It's horrible.
Watching
you hear your own voice. It's like,
everybody freaks out over their own voice, and we talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
You said you were just afraid you were going to sound like a hick.
Yeah, because I do.
I totally don't hear it at all.
Because you do too.
Because I guess so. Yeah. But you know what? People love to hear Southern people speak.
I think that it becomes a problem when there's a Southern person that says something semi-intellectual.
Yeah, people don't know how to think it. They don't know how to accept that.
Yeah, there's like a level of like cognitive dissonance. I hate that word because it's such like a hot word to use now for everything, but it's really true. It's like they can't wrap their brain around the idea that
as soon as they hear a dialect, they stop listening to whatever it is.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And for the record, because I can hear what my voice sounds like right now, I feel like I'm over enunciating every word that I say. Usually I'm a lot more slackjaw. I don't know.
There ain't nothing wrong with that. It ain't like we're sitting around here talking like this.
Hi.
We could if we wanted to.
I might be by the end of this vodka drink. I'm going to be honest with you. There's a lot of it in there. That was just a bad call, but...
Indeed. Vodka not sponsored by Screwball Whiskey, however, or...
it could be.
It could be. It could be. Or Nike or Samson headphones or the Atlanta Braves.
Should I turn my head this way so they can see the Samson
Yeah. Samson.
logo?
Samson.
Unaffiliated,
yeah. Unrelated. But we were talking earlier about all sorts of things, and I said that would be a fun thing to bring up, is the fact that we're talking about our dialects and the way that we sound. And obviously, I don't think you sound but then again, I'm the same way. Like I don't when I hear myself talk, I don't really think, oh, this is an unintelligent redneck voice. But I think that the people who don't hear folks like me much.
Yeah. Have you traveled anywhere outside
Never.
of like, okay, so I do have a
Never.
quick sort of little story. When we moved out to Arizona, I don't think that I really sound hillbilly
Yeah.
or redneck until I moved out there, and it became acutely and painfully aware to me that I do have a terrible Southern accent. And
But it's beautiful. It's not terrible.
right, well, it's thick.
Yeah.
So I was waiting tables at the Mellow Mushroom downtown, in Tempe, Arizona, just outside of Phoenix. And we would have this like lunch rush hour where all these bankers would come in, right?
Yeah.
And one girl was talking to me and she's like, "Oh my God, I love your accent. Where are you from?" And before I could answer, she goes, "Is it Australia?" And I looked at her, I was like, "What?" And then she goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I meant to say, is it?" And then she goes, "New Zealand."
You're getting further away.
And so basically I was like, I really hope that you didn't go to school for language or dialect or anything like that, because you're totally missing the mark.
Fail.
Terrible, terrible. And when I actually told her where I was from, it's like she didn't believe me because I would lie about that. So again, it goes back to that.
We picked South Carolina when you want to tell a lie about where you're from.
Yeah, well, so I'm originally from North Carolina, but it's, I think, close enough for comfort. I do think that North Carolina has probably a little more dialects in terms of regional involved.
Probably.
And when you get up towards the mountains,
there's
big
mountain
difference.
people.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the same way in my family in Alabama. Like if you go around like Tuscaloosa and where the college is, that's a totally different dialect than that of when you get closer into the mountains where my folks are from. Like,
yeah, 100%. You know, you get more of that like big city. Well, not maybe big city, but cultural melting pot.
now, here's an idea. Do you think that where a person's from and their dialect and the way that the rest of the world looks at them has an adverse or positive or negative effect on how they develop mentally?
I don't know that I could say it would have a negative or positive, but I think it definitely, there is an impact involved in that. I think that when you come from certain areas that are known for things, it's very hard to break away from those molds.
Yes.
You know, I would assume, right, that where's like the space shuttle, where was that stuff centered? Was it Florida, or was it like
the Kennedy, the
Space Center stuff,
the JFK,
right?
whatever? Yeah, that's all in Jacksonville, I think.
So
Somewhere
wherever
in
that's
Florida.
from, I would assume that if you're growing up and you're like, I want to be an astronaut, that they would be like, that's so cool, because it's a big sort of thing that's woven into the fabric of that community. You know, I think if you're coming from where I came from, we were known for basically three things, right? Kannapolis, North Carolina was known for cannon mills, so we made towels.
Towels.
Right, towels. We made towels.
My mom used to spell it Tiwel. Towel.
You know, I'm not even mad at her because that's like how we say it. That's just what it sounds like. Phonetic, man. But so we were known for that. We were known for condoms, and we were known for NASCAR, and more specifically Dale Earnhardt.
Listen.
Now, if I'd have said
Dale Earnhardt's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, I get it, but that's probably the most redneck thing that these people have ever heard me say.
You're welcome.
Listen, Dale Earnhardt is it.
Well, his mama was real nice. She used to make us chocolate chip cookies, and whenever we would walk around the neighborhood, she would always be waiting at her front door to like give all the kids chocolate chip cookies. So his mom was pretty boss. But
that's awesome.
But I would assume that if I, growing up, were like, I want to be an astronaut, they'd be like, yeah, good luck with that, dude.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. Bennettsville is Bennettsville's known for nothing. The only thing we're known for now is Aziz Ansari, and it being the place that he moved from. And I think he actually claims Columbia now.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I think that he's just shortened it to South Carolina.
Don't do that, dude.
But, you know,
that would be like me saying I'm from Charlotte.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not from Charlotte.
Yeah, Charlotte is its own world.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with shortening where you're from for descriptions nature. Like as long as, because I say I'm from Bennettsville and everybody's like, huh, and I'll be like Florence, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I know where Florence is. But just the same thing if you're like, I'm from Kannapolis, North Carolina, and you're like,
but can we be honest though? Because there's a big difference between Florence and Columbia.
Oh yeah.
Now you could say you're from Florence if you wanted to, and that'd probably be a little more accurate if you're from the Bennetts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's a big leap.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
If there's, yeah, there's about an hour. There's about an hour difference there. But to say Columbia, there's all right. The Columbia, if you don't do the whole South Carolina, if you don't do the whole Gamecock thing, and you don't do the whole, I think Columbia is a young man's game. It just seems like there's a lot going on around the 5 Points area, and if you're not involved, and I know we're bouncing all over, and I apologize for this. This is my fault. I'll take credit for this
just
veer
catch
off.
up.
But we are exactly. Columbia is just not. I don't think that's my people, man. I don't think that's my folks.
I don't think it's Aziz's people either.
Yeah, you're right.
You ain't from Columbia, homie.
Yeah, Bennettsville, man. Marlboro Academy he went to. Anyway, we're not.
I didn't even know there was a Marlboro Academy. I got to be honest with you.
There's a Marlboro Academy, and then I
they
graduated
teach you
from
how
this.
to roll cigarettes or like, I don't know what.
What's funny is the Marlboro Cigarette Company, I'm pretty sure, bought all of their tobacco in the early days from Marlboro County, because Marlboro County is that's our biggest cash crop. I'm pretty sure has been tobacco for
Really?
years.
I had no idea.
We do tobacco and cotton mainly, and then some soy, and there's
Soy?
Wow.
Wow.
There's a lot of agriculture and corn as well in Marlboro County, and I could be making this up,
It sounds legit.
but I'm pretty sure that that's where Marlboro cigarettes got their name, was because of tobacco that came from Marlboro County.
I believe you.
Right? Let's just go with that. Let's just pretend that's. We had a
It's
disclaimer,
out
by the
there
way.
now.
We have a disclaimer, by the
It's
way.
like the Bernstein and Berenstain, right?
Berenstain.
Right? It's the same thing.
It's the Marlboro County effect.
Done.
The Mandalay Mandela County effect. But anyway, getting back to the brain,
Yeah.
I think that being from certain places like that, and maybe you, I feel this certainly with me and maybe with you, just being from a place like that and maybe realizing at an early age that maybe, did you feel like you were in the wrong part of the world, or not necessarily wrong part of the world, but did you feel like you were just different than the people that were around you? It took me leaving to realize that, I think, but.
Well, okay, so here's the thing with me. In terms of growing up, my family is predominantly uneducated.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the first to go to college, the first to get a college degree.
Congratulations for that, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. And this is on my mother and who they think my daddy is, his side of the family as well. So either way you look at it, I'm the first. And then I'm only like the second to get a high school diploma and not a
Wow.
GED. So growing up, I was in a lot of like the honors and the AP courses. So I think for me, I always felt out of place.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily a product of my environment or the city that I was in. It was really just, I never fit in anywhere, really.
I feel very similar, and I don't know if it was. It became more apparent when I moved away, I'll say. But I
Yeah.
think that when I was there and in it, I realized that I was just putting on a show basically for most of those folks. Like I was trying to be more like them so that I would be accepted. But it took effort for me to be more like them. Like
So what do you mean like be like them? What did that entail?
that would be like, I felt like I needed to listen to the country music, or I felt
Okay.
like I needed to
Be a good old boy.
be a good old boy, or drive the big truck with the big tires. And
Did you have a big truck with big tires?
Fuck yeah, I did. I had here you go, rednecks. I had a 1997 Ford F-150 with a 3-inch lift kit and 35, 12, 50, 20 Nitto mud grapplers. There's some redneck talk there for you.
He didn't take one breath while he said that. That's impressive. Did you practice that before this?
No.
Yeah, that's...
No, that's just it. I'm a car guy. I like cars. I did a lot of. I was involved in a lot of. We had a car lot.
I remember from your
And-
episode.
Hey, we had a car lot, and I had that. That was my favorite truck of all time. It had a big white Oakley sticker on the front of it, and I mean, it was beastly.
Could you afford a pair of Oakleys though?
Listen, I did very well for myself back then when I didn't have any rent to pay and I was living at home.
Man.
I had 2 trucks and a motorcycle.
What?
Yeah. And plus that was different for me because
I think you've owned more assets as a teenager than I have in my whole life.
Well, I got that giant insurance settlement
Right.
when I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
And an 18-year-old should never get any money. That's probably what ruined my outlook on what life was going to be like as an adult.
You mean you just assumed that
I just assumed I would have money
Okay.
forever. I assumed, and I still spend money like I've just got it all the time. But
Man, that's a whole can of worms we could talk about.
but I don't know, that probably mentally set me up for a life that I wasn't going to live.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe my subconscious somewhere along the way knew that life wasn't going to be like that.
Yeah, you were like, bro, slow down.
Yeah, but
You're
I
about
didn't.
to fuck some shit up.
But I didn't.
Oh, can I cuss on this?
Fuck yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Apologies, children.
Apologies, children. Now go to bed.
Go on, get.
Go on, get. That's right. So you like speaking about things like that. Now I think that having that amount of money and blowing that amount of money and then inevitably going broke, and once you get used to living a lifestyle that when you run out of money, you can just transfer from another account, and it's having that luxury until everything is depleted really puts you in a very depressed state. And when something that you think is never going to run out runs out. And we mentioned trauma and mental trauma and its effect on, I don't know, life or mentality or the brain itself, or which way we were going to go with that. But
Well, so why don't we approach it from the point of view of trauma and how it plays a factor in how you perceive.
There you go.
Right? Because
Yeah.
that's really like sort of I think the little nugget of truth for any pathway. Any way that trauma affects you, any way it branches out, right?
Yeah.
Eventually it's going to factor into how you interact and how you perceive stimuli coming in from your surrounding world
Uh-huh.
and your environment, and how you respond to it, you know? So
Absolutely.
So for you, you're saying that it was having money and it running out and that being a source of sort of depression and crisis, right?
Yes.
So another way to look at that would be like somebody like me that's never really had any substantial amount of money, and that being its own source of crisis
Oh, yeah.
and depression, you know? So both of those kind of have shifted the way that we perceive things, right? Because
But it sort of gets us to the same destination.
absolutely. We need more money, guys.
We need more money.
We broke.
Speaking of which, we broke. We want to thank our sponsors, Samson, the Atlanta Braves, and Nike, and Screwball Whiskey Studios. But seriously, though, like, that's a really, really interesting thing, depression, because it is something that you can get there through so many different vessels. And I don't know that. Do you feel like most people realize that they realize what depression is and that they might be suffering from it, or do you? Because I think I see a lot of folks around me that just react in anger and they don't realize that they're depressed. They're just acting out.
Well, so I think that it's a distinction that needs to be made. First off, I think with a lot of clinical diagnosis,
Yeah.
there's clinical criteria involved in that, right? So almost always the tipping point would be an impact on your daily function.
Yep.
And that is really like the thing that takes you over the edge, right? So I think terms like depression or anxiety, social anxiety, what's some more? Personality disorders, bipolar, borderline personality, any of those, gaslighting, you know what I mean? Like you hear people that talk about this because they themselves have experienced maybe certain aspects of those illnesses.
Yeah.
Or they've had a loved one that has suffered from it, or maybe showed certain symptomologies of it, but maybe they weren't necessarily clinically diagnosed. So I think that that's something that needs to be addressed when we're talking about
Yeah.
that. Because I think it's a normal part of human nature to feel a little down at times
Yeah, it's a natural part of the whole situation.
because it gives us a jumping point for when we feel joy, right?
Yeah.
It helps us to define circumstances and make sense of them.
There has to be dark so the light can be appreciated.
Exactly. And I think that doesn't mean that everyone's depressed, you know?
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
Like maybe that guy that's angry and lashing out is just an asshole, you know? Like that could be a thing. Maybe it's nothing to do with depression. You know, maybe it's a
Yeah.
whole nother bag of things. But I think we all have our baggage, right? And there's such a stigma associated with all of these illnesses. And sort of like the carelessness that we use just in common encounters with people.
Yeah.
And how we throw these definitions out. And none of us are, myself included, are equipped to really say, like, no, man, so-and-so's, like, really depressed, you know? They're
Yeah,
going
you
through
don't
a
know what's
really
going
hard
on inside
time.
anybody's head.
Well, we're not professionals,
Yeah.
first off. And then I would even argue that a lot of the ways that we're diagnosing those things, it shouldn't be based off of, like, how many checks you can do
Yeah,
for
yeah.
a list of symptoms. It should be more on a spectrum, I think. But that's just me.
That's very true. I wonder too if people who experience situations like that, like discerning or not discerning, but confusing what might be depression and anger in another person, if they're just like, for me, I'll be like, okay, this person really doesn't mean what they just said because, they're just sad and this is their way of coping with it.
Is that maybe you
Or whatever,
projecting
but I
your
think
own
that
life
that's
experiences
what I was
onto-
literally about to say, and I'm
Yeah.
just because I feel like humans feel naturally like everybody else perceives things the way that they do.
Yes, and this is such a good segue into the next
Yeah,
thing that we can talk about, because perception in itself, like the freaking dress, man, come on, like online, is it?
it doesn't matter what it is, does it?
No, it doesn't, because we all perceive things differently,
Yeah,
right? So why can't we just celebrate it on a human level and then go from there? Why does it have to be in this sort of like false dichotomy or like this closed system of outcomes?
yeah. Why does it only have to be, or why is it right or wrong? I've seen the one where there's a person standing on this side and a person standing on this side, and there's a 9 drawn. But from where this person's standing, it looks like a 6. From
Yeah.
where this person's standing, it looks like a 9. So it's like, I'm telling you that this is a 6, and this person's like, no, I'm telling you it's a 9. Neither one of these people are incorrect. But the point of the point of that story was that apparently somebody drew a 6 or a 9. Somebody drew that 6 or a 9, and somebody's just standing on the wrong end of it.
Yeah, so like really that deals with figure ground perception.
Yeah.
And that's some of the laws involved with Gestalt psychology. So really that's basically saying that the way that our brain organizes and stores information, retrieves it, is based off of like a series of principles. And so like the whole 9 or a 6 thing, right? It's like those images that you see online where it's like, when you first look at it, it looks like a landscape.
Yeah.
And the longer you look at it, you start seeing, oh, shit, there's a face. Oh, wait, there's a face. There's a face. Oh, my God, the whole thing's faces. You know?
Yeah.
So it kind of goes into that as well.
I love those things.
Yeah, Gestalt, man. Gestalt laws. Look it up.
I love those things. The brain does that to us, and it makes us perceive things like outlandishly different. In some cases, like I've noticed that I feel like if I went to a doctor, they would give me all kinds of words that would describe what I go through mentally. But
Maybe.
I feel
Maybe they would give you a lot of prescriptions. I think it would depend on the doctor.
yeah, I don't see. That's what I fear. Is I wouldn't mind talking to somebody about my quirkiness to find out if I am indeed as borderline bipolar or schizophrenic that I feel like I am, or
WebMD is like the worst
yeah,
invention ever.
yeah, it's
It
ruined
ruins
people's.
lives.
It really has, and I'm scared to go and talk to somebody and find out like if what I fear to be true is true.
Why are you afraid of that?
Because I feel like then that I would not. I feel like then that I might lose credibility.
Because of the stigmas associated with that?
Yes, and I also fear that I would be forced to take some sort of medication, and I don't like. I don't like to take medication. I'm just so. I don't know why I'm so against that, but excuse me, I totally am. For some reason, I'm just against the whole. I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go Noah Byrne conspiracy theorist here.
Sure.
But I don't know
It
that.
takes a lot of effort to be a Noah Byrne conspiracist.
I'm telling you, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm not going to go down the rabbit
Shout out
hole.
Noah.
Shout out Nora Byrne. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole near as far as he would, but I do believe that there are things that may be slipped into a lot of these medications that may inevitably help out with population control, which is the biggest problem we have in the world, and I fear that. So yeah, then that's why. See, is that not a schizophrenic thought?
I cannot attest to that because I am not professionally equipped
Yeah.
to attest to that. But I will say, I think that maybe a bigger point with that, I don't think it's an intentional sort of thing that there's so many side effects. I think really it goes back to the fact that we as a culture really look for a quick fix.
Yes.
In America, we are instant gratification. Give me a pill so I can pop it and make this thing go away.
Right now.
Give me a mantra to say that'll get me through this, or you know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
and really with a lot of like the modern psychology stuff that we're seeing, in my opinion, it's repackaging and putting a new brand on.
Shout out Repack.
Something that you know is been around for a really long time.
Yeah.
And so I think in terms of just our society, it's way more beneficial to the average American to go to someone and say, man, you know, I'm feeling really anxious. I'm having this, you know, these symptoms are happening to me on a daily basis. And then they say, well, here's this pill. This pill is going to fix all your problems, right? Because if you look at some of the other parts in the world, right, you look at like Spain or Europe, they're still in this sort of psychoanalysis approach to the brain and how we view things. And I think that that's great because everybody could benefit from just having somebody to talk to.
I think so.
Unfortunately, you can't bill that on an insurance.
Yeah.
Right? So that's one problem with the system that's set up. I think a bigger problem is the fact that a lot of the ways we're assuming the brain processes and stores information and retrieves information is based off of theory. So there's no substantial empirical evidence to back that up because the technology that we have right now just doesn't do what we need it to do in order to fully understand a dynamic system that's happening, right? So like when you look at any of the brain imaging technology, right? The best out there, I want to say takes like one photo every second, which seems amazing. And it is amazing, but only up to a certain point. Because basically what that means is it's taking one picture per second in one part of the brain, right?
Yeah.
So that's assuming that all of the activity that's happening within your brain on a physiological level is happening in one spot of the brain, and that's not true. We know that's not true.
Yeah, and the
It's
second
a
is a really
system.
long time if you break it down.
So long. In the time frame that you get one photo, there are so many different aspects that are happening within your brain on a cellular level.
Yeah.
Let alone, so if you look at neurotransmitters, right? So a lot of the psychopharmaceutical drugs that are being prescribed right now, think like SSRIs.
Yeah.
The reason that those things can like literally fuck up somebody's whole world in terms of like, well, one, misdiagnosis, and two, just saying like, okay, well, you need X amount of milligrams when maybe you need this amount of milligrams. Well, if we had, say, 100 photos per second, then we would know definitively, okay, well, this is how much serotonin's being released in this instance. This is how the body's reuptaking it. This is how it's being stored. This is how it's being recycled. It's so much shit involved with this. So it really is a guessing game in terms of drugs. I get where you're coming from, man.
How long do you think it takes until we get to the sort of the frame rate, technically, quote unquote, that we need to get to where we can? Now, is that a funding issue?
I don't think it's a funding issue. I think it's an issue of we just haven't had that next scientific breakthrough of people that are capable of looking at something outside of the box. You know? So like when you think about physics, Einstein was so big of a deal, right? Because he was thinking about things in a way that people didn't think of.
Yes.
Any sort of scientific revolution, there's always been that handful of people where they've got that side eye from everybody else going, you're kind of nuts, man. Like, no, this is the way of the world. This is the lay of the land, you know? It's going to take, I think, having that one person that is like a physicist savant.
Yeah.
You know? That, like, just fucking breaks every rule that we have right now.
Somebody who steps in with a new perception.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Full circle.
Bam. That was beautiful.
But see, I really want to think that there is a group of these people, a group of these great thinkers. In this day and age, I believe that a lot of these people are probably tremendously anxious and just probably. I'm not trying to group myself within this, but I definitely feel like a lot of your free thinkers and your outside of the box people are probably the kind of people who don't have a lot of communication with other people because there's nothing to cultivate their conversation or nothing to cultivate their thought processes, so that they can't really have the conversations that they want to have with enough people.
Right.
Because nobody gets what they're talking about.
That, I think, well, that could definitely be like a regional thing, like we were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah.
It could be that. I think that really that's more. I think it's more a problem with the way in which we have set up our education system.
Yeah.
Again. Because, you know, like, okay, when you have a group of kids and they're in a class, formative years, right?
Yeah.
Like elementary school, let's say. And they're basically saying, well, no, you have to solve X amount of math problems in X amount of minutes. Otherwise, we're going to have to hold you back. That's not to say that, like, little Johnny or little Sarah isn't capable of solving those math problems.
Yes.
It's just maybe that developmentally, they're not progressing at the rate in which society says they should be progressing. And I think that this goes back to a bigger issue with post-industrial society, right?
Yeah.
Where everything's like a factory system, put it on a conveyor belt.
That's the whole thing. It seems like the whole education system
cannot be like that, man.
Yeah.
If you look at some of like the biggest breakthroughs in terms of science or medicine or literature or philosophy, any of those things, you would have people that genuinely loved a topic and honed and crafted their thoughts on this for years, sometimes a lifetime, dude. Freaking Darwin, you know, Origin of the Species. It took him like, what, 25 years plus? And the only reason he released his theory is because some other guy was like, hey, by the way, here's my theory. And he had to go to battle with like the scientific community to say, no, I've got hard evidence.
Yeah.
This is my life's work. But even then, he wasn't comfortable doing it, right? The way in which we set up our education system now, it puts those types of people and that sort of packaging of ideas at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this in another episode, is that if you walk into like, and I'm thinking about my elementary school and the way it looks, and from the outside and the inside, if you walk around it, it looks like a factory or a prison, because they're trying to prepare children to, it's very factory worker. It's very like, you walk into a school and the whole, how everybody's just, if you think about how the desks are arranged.
Oh, it's efficient.
It's very efficient, and they want to create obedient workers, like George Carlin said. That's what they're interested in creating, is obedient workers that don't ask too many questions, that do what they're told. And if you are somebody who doesn't like do well in situations like that, then they're going to hold you back. I was one of those people. I didn't like to do things the way that everybody else did things, and I got held back a few years.
Yeah, I'm like the polar opposite, man. If I do well on a test and I get a metaphorical pat on the back, that's like all the incentive I need to go forward.
Yeah.
I'm all about, give me some hoops, baby. I'll jump through them. I love it.
I wish I could do that.
But don't make it too hard, because my level of achievements, I need that to be really high, so I need mediocre tasks that I can excel in.
I don't think that's true. But seriously though, I'm not the kind of person who, I don't think I learned anything in school that my teachers or that the educational system
That made your life better.
that made my life better or easier.
Can I say? I think, again, it goes back to that post-industrial society, because prior to that, there was no shame in having a craft that you learned through an apprenticeship. So you could make the fuck out of a table, man, and it would be like a beautiful table.
And that's your life, and you can do that for your entire life.
And now try being a kid and saying, hey, man, I just want to make tables to your parents. It's going to break their hearts.
Yeah, they want you to do something that's going to make money or be a prominent job. Like, the world needs more plumbers.
Stability, It's
Yeah.
like, I think coming from me as a parent, I worry the most about my child having stability in the future. And unfortunately, the way in which we approach things in our society, if you're really good at something with your hands, it's discredited or not taken seriously or not paid the amount that you should be paid for. And I'm sure you're familiar with this as a musician or someone that's a creative mind. And for me personally, like, the first time I went to college when I was younger was for fine art and sculpting and poetry and art history. And then one day I woke up and was like, fuck, I don't want to teach. Like, what am I going to do with this? So I dropped out. But if we were living in a slightly different society where those things were valued for what they are or what they have the potential to be, and you were paid for that accordingly, maybe I wouldn't have dropped out.
If this were the 16th or 17th century, maybe.
Yeah, before the conveyor belt, man.
Yeah, before they realized that things could be done. Before people got mentally lazy. See, I think, and I am a very lazy person, and I say this all the time.
We all are, if we're honest.
I say this all the time. Like, I'm a very lazy person. But when it comes time for me to not be lazy anymore, I'm pretty good about that. Like, I'm pretty good about stepping outside of that box.
But is it always for something that you're excited about?
Usually it's only things that will benefit me. And I have no problem saying that because I'm honest. I'd rather be honest than liked.
I think that goes back to that creative mentality. I really do.
Yeah, and I just can't help it. I don't think I can. I mean, I'm sure I can help it, but
you can't fake interest and like intrinsic motivation. That's a whole other thing. intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation,
Yeah.
right? So, like, are you motivated by external sources, or are you motivated within your own internal sources, right? So, are
Yeah.
you doing something for the sake of loving what you're doing, or are you doing something for the sake of an external source that's saying, well, this is the way that you should do things?
Yes. And I'll even say that even within the things that I love to do, like even within music, like if Adam or Smitty brings a song to the table that I'm just not interested in, it just doesn't. It's not there. It
It's
doesn't
never going to
exist.
click. You're never going to sing it like
It
you
just
sang
doesn't
it.
thing that I don't necessarily want to do because I know that it would mean a lot to somebody else if I were to do it. Mm-hmm. But those things don't come often because of who I am.
Listen, man, secretly I know you love it when I get wasted and I'm asking you to play Avett Brothers or Flaming Lips or...
Listen, because I love to do that shit.
I know you
love
do.
those bands.
And those are always the best songs that you play, for the record.
I know.
For the record.
I think so.
Get on board, guys.
Get on board with the Lips and the Avets. Seriously though, I just don't know that if that's something that'll ever change about me. Or if I want that to change about me, because that sort of
That's
defines who I
important.
am. And I
Yeah.
think that I don't want to, and that's mainly the reason why I don't want to go and have a doctor tell me, you need to take this, you need to take this, you need to do this.
Okay.
Because I don't want to change. I don't want to,
Okay, here's the thing.
I don't want to rewire anything up here.
Right, okay. Well, here's why I think if you went and talked to someone, they would most okay, assuming on the type of person you went to talk to.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get that out in the open. If you're going to a psychiatrist versus a psychologist versus a counselor versus like a group therapy situation, it's all going to be fucking different, the advice that they give you. So go into those sort of situations with your eyes wide open. Because most likely a psychologist is going to be really quick to prescribe you a drug. Because it's what they know.
Yeah, that's what they do.
First and foremost, they are a medical doctor. And there's no shame in that. And there's no shame in taking medication if you really and truly need medication. I think that until it gets to a point where it is putting your daily functioning at a deficit or an impairment, you don't even need to really and truly worry about the potential threat of being put on a drug. And a lot of the drugs that you're going to be on, I know that earlier you said something about a personality disorder, borderline?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the thing with that. If it's borderline personality disorder, you're going to notice moments where you get manic. And you might be like super creative for hours, days, weeks on end, right? Depending on the type that you're diagnosed with.
Yeah.
More importantly, you're going to notice troughs of depression and not talking about your average sort of sadness.
Yeah. Like something. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Impair your daily functioning.
I've had people that bring it up, like they can see when the switch gets flipped.
Yes.
Like they just
okay.
they realize
in your personal behavior, you mean?
Yeah, like they can see and it's I don't think that it's anything that they bring up right then because I think they know how I am and I'm just very I'm right, you're wrong in a lot of situations. In a lot of situations, and I don't know. I've definitely been in a situation before where people are like, and I'll bring it up myself. Like there's a switch that can be flipped at any given time, and I don't know if it will or if it won't. But whenever it is flipped, you will know it. We will all know it, and it's not a good thing. And I don't. Mm-hmm. That's why I spend a lot of time at home. That's why I don't stay away from home a lot because I'm very unpredictable. The longer I stay away from home, it almost happens every single time we go out of town with cornbread. Every single time we leave, I'm away from home. It'll happen, and I don't know why. If it's just like I'm uncomfortable that I don't have my home to go to. Or I'm uncomfortable, I don't have my car outside that I can go home if I wanted to.
Would you say that, though, you're maybe more of an extrovert or an introvert?
It depends.
So you're probably a mesovert, right? Because like everything
Yeah.
else, it's not a dichotomy. Most people fall somewhere in the
Yeah,
middle
it's
of two extremes, right?
yes.
So you probably really enjoy when you go out for a finite amount of time.
I could play trivia for 6 hours.
Right. And then when you come home, that's when you recharge your battery. That's when you
Yes.
regroup. That's
Yes.
when you find your sanity and your peace.
Yes.
But
If I
Can I
don't have
ask-
this rechargeable, if I don't have this charging station,
right.
then all that's out the window.
So on the flip side of that, if you were stuck in your house for a week, how would that be with no outside contact? Would you be going up the walls?
No.
No.
I noticed that I will every day, whether I need anything or not, I'll go to Walmart every day.
Because you got to get out just for a little bit.
Well, just for a minute, just for a bit, and I don't really need it. But when the hurricane hit, I was totally fine with I was totally fine with not going anywhere. I was 100%. I went and got my groceries for a week, and when I got back to the house, I was totally fine with staying here. And I think that maybe subconsciously, my subconscious is probably sick of this small space that I've been in for 7 years. Mm-hmm. But I feel comforted. Like I feel comforted in this place, and I don't feel the need to leave. I like knowing that I can, because I'm mildly claustrophobic, and I don't like feeling like I'm being held down. Mm-hmm. But if I'm not able to get back here, then I'm not very good mentally. And I told Adam, Ashley, and Chrissy, they came up to Boone with us the last time that we went, and we got a house together. And
I listened to the episode of The Fallout.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was an awful situation altogether, because
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and it's not a lot. It's not necessarily.
Well, also, I think it needs to be said that, like, anyone that gets on stage or does anything creative, there's a level of putting yourself out there and mental exertion that follows from that.
People don't understand the energy that takes.
No, because it's not energy unless you're working a double weight in tables, or you're in the hospital on your feet for like 18 hours, or, you're doing whatever it is.
It's the same as how the sun
outcome, right?
It's the same as how the sun drains energy. Like, you can sit by a pool all day long and do nothing but still get exhausted.
Yes.
Though you've been doing nothing but lay around all day. Just because that's how it's that sort of energy. Like, playing a show is like the sun. You're not really doing a lot of physical anything.
I would argue that you are.
But it's just it's definitely a mental exhaustion.
Do you think you're you when you're on stage, or are
most
you
of the time
a creative?
Most of the time I'm me. Mm-hmm. And I will sometimes me doesn't work. Sometimes they don't want me.
Is there a difference between you being you when you play solo versus when you play
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
There's always a difference. But I feel like
that right there means that you're working.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always a difference. But like I said, I'll try to be me. I'll show them me. Mm-hmm. But usually they don't like me. Usually they don't want the person who tells strange jokes, so that, and I like to try to tell jokes that nobody in the room laughs at. I don't know why I like to do that, but I do.
Well, you nailed a few of those at trivia tonight, I got to be honest.
Yeah, well, I mean, I try. I try to just to make jokes. that only really intelligent people will get, one, or then the people who will get them will be on their way home later, and they're like, oh.
That's me, I'm the latter.
I get it. No, I don't think that's true.
Sometimes. It takes me a beat.
Well, you know.
I ain't got no shame in it.
There's nothing wrong with that. But still, I just... going back to what I was saying about going to Boone after the band fiasco when Cornbread almost broke up, and that was just a shit weekend.
For like the millionth time, basically.
Yeah, but that time, and I think we talked about that. One night at Tito's, that whole situation. But either way, that's beside the point. When we got to Boone, I said, listen, I'm planning, my plans are is if you don't, like I told Smitty, I was like, bro, I will drive, you can sleep. I want to leave after we finish the second gig and come home because
You needed to.
I need to do that. Like, that's just something that
I don't think that
I need to do.
definitively means that you need to be on medication.
Yeah, and that's sort of why I want to avoid the whole medication thing, because I've figured out what triggers me, and I know that I can stay away from that thing.
I think the fact that you're self-aware enough to know that there are triggers, and you can kind of maintain and control those situations,
Yeah.
means you don't necessarily mean medication.
God.
Just saying.
Can I get that in writing?
Also, I'm not a professional at all in any capacity. So
There's a professional out there listening somewhere. It's like, oh man, I can hook this guy up.
You're
got
like,
him.
I hate this woman.
But
It's fucking up my livelihood.
but when they found out, when Ashley and Chrissy found out that I was gonna drive back that night, they were like, oh, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And I'm like, I get why you feel that way, but I am different. Like, I am just flat out different. I don't know another way to describe that. And I can't deal with it. And I was like, I love y'all. It's got nothing to do with y'all. It's just me. Being I'm literally on the fence the entire time. Being like, for every minute that I'm away from my home, I'm on the fence as to which side of the fence I'll fall on. Mm-hmm. I would just rather, if I fall on the wrong side of this fence, I'd rather not be around anybody who's not seen that before.
To witness the fallout, yeah.
Yeah, because Adam and Smitty know how it is, and they know how I am, and they know how temperamental I get when I haven't had my me time, and or in my home time. Like, Adam's like, oh, you can't breathe out of the inlet, can you? And I'm like, no, I really can't.
Okay, so here's the thing. I don't think that there's anything wrong with having sort of that geographical security blanket, if you will. Is that a way to word that?
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, that works.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, assuming that you're still able to function and do the things that you want to do, particularly creatively.
Yes.
Right? Because for you, that's like a big source of who you are, how you self-identify.
Yep.
If you were in an area that was toxic, which you've kind of talked about before.
Yep.
And how your lifestyle was before.
Yep.
That would be a problem. You know?
Absolutely.
If it became like a crutch.
Yeah.
Then it's a completely different sort of thing we're talking about there. You know?
Yeah. But if it's doing something to better my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, on that note, could we maybe take a break and then talk about self-betterment and the haters?
Absolutely. Let's do that. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with you here shortly after a little intermission.
Intermission.
BRB, guys.